I'm going to quickly talk about some of the features I've added and changes I've made to the Frank Kern automated webinar Infusionsoft campaign. I can also figure out how to do any of these things if you're using a different system like Clickfunnels or ActiveCampaign and so on. If you have an Infusionsoft account, and especially if you have purchased Frank Kern's auto webinar campaign set up in the past and want help fixing or improving it, here's my contact information, which I will repeat at the end of this short video. I can't tell you what industry or specific business I'm working in, but we have put hundreds of thousands of dollars of sales through this funnel. A quick note, Plus This, Memberium, and Fix Your Funnel are separate companies that add functionality to Infusionsoft and have helped me create some of the features I'm going to talk about. The funnel I've modified is the 2015 version of the automated webinar campaign, so let's get started. The first modification I did was we block people from registering if they have already bought the product sold in the webinar, which is easy to do. If they have a membership tag, we let them know they don't need to attend the webinar. The second modification I made was tracking the most recent webinar registration date, because many people sign up for the webinar 3 to 10 times or more, and they can do it over a period of several weeks to several months. This allows us to track the number of days between the most recent registration and their purchase. We also keep separate tags that tell us the first time they registered for the webinar, whether or not they've attended and what date they attended on, and various other factors. This helps us to figure out the sales cycle for our typical customer. Somebody could register 5 times before finally attending, buy nothing, come back to us 3 months later, and then finally buy the product. So we need to be able to track all of that. The next modification is offering a free version of our membership site to people if they do not purchase within a certain time frame, whether or not they've attended the webinar. I use Memberium, a membership service that connects WordPress and Infusionsoft to manage the membership tags and page access for our members. We did try the just-in-time webinar model, which was recommended to us by a popular webinar company. We did not get good results with it. We have been better off sticking with the original system of indoctrinating the user for 2 to 3 days before letting them into the webinar. The next modification is using a Memberium function to assign contacts a random number from 1 to 12 when they register. This allows us to easily split test anything we want to, anywhere in any Infusionsoft campaign. We can test that many variations whenever we want to test an email, a campaign sequence, whatever we want to test, we can divide it up like that. The next modification is we count the number of times people register for the webinar. I'm not sure about the current version of the funnel, but the one that my partner got in mid-2015 didn't have that feature. So what we do is we treat people differently depending on how many times they've registered and attended or missed the webinar. If they register 3 times and keep missing the webinar, we offer a short edited version of the webinar to them which they can watch immediately. The next modification I made is done inside Infusionsoft Forms. We use a special JavaScript code which is in the non-visible HTML element field. When people register for the webinar, what it does is if they type their full name in, it splits their name into first name and last name. And if you freeze the next frame, you can copy the code for yourself. We initially offer the webinar to people either 3, 4, or 5 days after they sign up. After that, our re-registration invitations are actually a separate webinar. For people who miss the webinar, we offer only 2 sign-up dates per week. If we offered the webinar every day indefinitely, the appearance of holding live webinars would fall apart. I've built many entry points into the webinar. People can fill in a form from a lot of different landing pages on a lot of different websites for a lot of different ad campaigns. People can be triggered by a tag to be invited, or they can directly fill out a form and go straight to the counting process where we assign the random number and then start indoctrinating the user. I've also baked in the lead source and referral code variables directly into most of the forms that I use that lead into the funnel. The next modification is we use a do not disturb tag, which is very useful for controlling other campaigns outside of the webinar campaign. When we get new contacts, we put them in a funnel that sells up to 5 of their products after a few days. But before starting a marketing sequence for any product to any person, we first make sure that person does not have an active do not disturb tag. This allows them to get through the webinar campaign before selling them other products. The next modification is sending an email to myself using the merge fields in the email builder, so that when people buy certain things, I get an email showing me the lead source, referral codes, how many times they registered for the webinar, the date they were created, and so forth. I've actually made dozens of other small and big changes and additions to the automated webinar funnel from Frank Kern. They make our work easier, they make marketing more effective, and they deliver useful information to us. It's very important to note that I also use Zapier.com to help me connect Infusionsoft with Aweber, with Google Docs, with Clickfunnels, and a lot more. Zapier actually helps hook hundreds of different apps together to move data around and trigger all kinds of marketing events. I've seen the pricing in terms of most Infusionsoft consultants and developers, and I can tell you for sure I will not charge even 50% of their prices. In fact, my business partners and I are huge fans of joint ventures and results-based compensation, so there's a possibility we might want to partner with you in some way, in which case my labor fee for your services could be as low as $0, assuming you are willing to pay a percentage of your increased income. I'm also ready to implement any new funnel tactics you regularly hear about from marketing automation experts like Todd Brown. And if you're not using Infusionsoft, I should be able to make any of these modifications or anything new in other systems like ActiveCampaign or Clickfunnels. I would never lock you into any kind of a contract, monthly retainer, charge you an onboarding fee, or take your money and run. My hourly fees are less than half of most of the developers I've seen. Don't spend $20,000 a year for something that only actually requires 10 hours of work and maybe a little bit of maintenance. I'm not an expert in the entire Infusionsoft suite, but I am quite comfortable with 90% of it. Of course, my area of expertise is the campaign builder, plus 20 years of marketing experience. So if you want your Infusionsoft campaigns fixed, supercharged, or built from scratch, talk with me. Contact me at scott@scovert.com or call 705-749-2225 to talk about your business. And if you are one of the many people who think that there are things that Infusionsoft cannot do, well, that's actually incorrect. And if you give me a challenge, I'll show you how to solve it.